Hello, my name is Matthias, and welcome to the weekly Wildcard Draft, where I take a look at what I think is the best squad to have in Fantasy Premier League going forward, and usually it's within the next 4 to 5 game weeks, but seeing as we only have one game week left, this is essentially a free hit draft at this point. So if you're on a free hit for game week 38, and you're wondering which 11 players to have in your starting 11, and which players to have as cheap enablers on your bench, then this is the guide for you. But even if you're not on a free hit, I think this is going to be pretty valuable for you because I'm going to go through which players I think are the most important to own, starting with the most important player to own and then ending up with number 15, which is kind of like a bench player. But there will at least be 11 players that I think are not essential, but at least someone you should really consider for this game week. So we should just go straight into it and look at the number one pick, and usually that is Erling Braut Haaland, but this game week it is Mohamed Salah, and that's partly because Haaland is playing for City, who don't have much to play for in the league. They have still 2 finals left, the FA Cup final and the Champions League final, so I'm not 100% sure that Haaland starts, so he's not number one pick for me, probably not the captaincy option for me, and I think my captain is going to be Mohamed Salah, because I think Liverpool against Southampton, if they have something to play for, maybe Man United secure top 4 before this final game week. But even still, I think Salah is going to start. I think he wants the 20 league goals. He has 19 league goals currently. I think he wants to finish the season on a high. He's kind of a contender for team of the season as well, compared to Saka, who for like the last 2 months has been pretty terrible. Before that, Saka was potentially the player of the season, but now Salah might overtake him in the team of the season as well. So I think Salah wants to finish strong. I think he's going to start and play at least 80 minutes for Liverpool against Southampton. And they are playing Southampton, which is the team that is already relegated with nothing to play for. And I think Liverpool would just completely dominate that game and destroy them. So I think Salah is probably the best captaincy option. And I think he's the most important player to own in Fantasy Premier League this game week. Moving on to number 2, we still don't have Haaland. We have another striker, and it is Harry Kane. Harry Kane likewise has more to play for than Haaland. We don't know if Haaland starts for sure. We do know that Kane starts for sure, and he plays against Leeds, which is one of the worst teams in the league, one of the worst defensive teams in the league. And Kane is on 28 goals, I think. He definitely wants to reach 30 goals, I think. And so I think twice there, but that is what I think. But I think Kane has a good opportunity to score at least 2 goals in this game. And we know that he usually scores 1 goal because he's been so consistent all season. So I think if you have the money, getting Kane should be your priority if you don't already have Salah, of course. Or if you do already have Salah, of course. But yeah, Kane against Leeds, fantastic fixture. Spurs, they can still get Conference League, which is a major trophy. I'm a West Ham fan, so I have to say it's a major trophy. But I know Spurs fans are like, oh, we don't want Conference League. But that says everything you need to know about Spurs and their trophy lusts and wants. So yeah, loser mentality, if you ask me. So I think Kane's going to go all out. It might be his final game of the season or his final game for Spurs as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Leeds obviously have a lot to play for, but that shouldn't really be that big of a downside, really. It could potentially be an upside because Leeds are going to push on. They need to score goals. They need to win the match. So that's going to open things up for Spurs and Kane. So I think Kane will get at least 1 goal and potentially 2, maybe even 3. Maybe he gets his first hat-trick of the season. We'll see. But I think Kane is the best striker option, and I think he's slightly ahead of Haaland, who's still obviously in the team. He's knocked down for number 1 in last week's wildcard drafts, but now he's number 3, and it's still a good position for him. I think he's still, if he starts, he is the main man to have, probably. They play Brentford away, which is also kind of a difficult fixture. That's also why Salah and Kane are slightly ahead of him, because even if he does play, you don't really know with City already kind of having the league wrapped up and having other competitions to worry about. Don't really know if Haaland's going to go all out, but at the same time, Haaland always has a lust for goals. He always wants to score more goals and improve his record as well. So I think Haaland is still an essential pick to have in Fantasy Premier League, assuming he starts. But if we get news that he's benched for Alvarez, then definitely you can go from Haaland to Kane if you don't have Kane already. So I think that's a good option as well. But pay close attention to the team news, because we're going to get team news probably right before the deadline. So I'd advise you to save your transfers. And unless you're on a free hit, then you can change your team around every single time. But I think if you're not on a free hit, you should save your transfers until the last 5 minutes. Hopefully the site doesn't crash on you, because it has happened this season. So be wary of that. But I think Haaland still is someone who should start if he starts. So it's pretty easy, really. Haaland has been the best player in the game, really, this whole season and in the league. So he's a definite starter if he starts. Moving on to the next pick, it is Trent Alexander-Arnold. We are once again targeting the Southampton game for Liverpool. Trent got 1 point last time, but he's been so good in his new role, and he's looked so close to scoring and getting assists. He has been getting a lot of assists. He has been getting some clean sheets. I think Liverpool will keep a clean sheet against Southampton, and Trent will probably get an assist or potentially even a goal and potentially bonus points as well. So I think Trent is the best defender to have. Currently, he was my second most important defender to own last week, but now that he has the same amount of games left as everyone else, he is clearly the best defender to have. And I don't have him personally in my own squad, so I'm looking kind of towards bringing him in, but maybe for differential sake I might go with someone else just because I have ground to catch up. So, but I still think Haaland. I still think Trent Alexander-Arnold is a really, really, really good pick, and he's been such an amazing asset ever since they sort of changed the system there at Liverpool. So kind of speaks for itself with the Southampton away, which is a really easy fixture for Liverpool. Moving on, we have another really good player, and it is GW38. He was in last week's wildcard draft as well, but now he's moved up 2 places from 7th to 8th because once again he got a beautiful assist in his last game against Fulham. Now they play Nottingham Forest at home. Nottingham Forest had everything to play for against Arsenal last time, and they got to secure 3 hugely important points, which means that they are staying up in the Premier League. Kind of surprising to me, but again, it means that they have nothing to play for in the final game, and Crystal Palace will want to end on a high. SA has been in such tremendous form, and I think he's going to kick on and be a really good player this week. Nottingham Forest at home has been one of the easier fixtures this season. Throughout the whole season, really. Nottingham Forest have struggled away. They have struggled to defend lately as well, so I think SA is a fantastic pick. And he's probably on penalties now as well with Salah injured as well, so SA, fantastic pick, really cheap. There's really no excuse to not have him in your squad, really. So I think SA is fantastic. Moving on, we have Marcus Rashford. Still going to back him. I don't know yet. He's back in full training again now after being sick and being out for the first part of Game Week 37. He's most likely going to feature in the second game of Game Week 37, which is against Chelsea. So I think Rashford is still a fantastic pick. For me, he's clearly the left winger in like the team of the season. If you're playing with a left winger, I think he's been the best left winger this season by far. I think he's getting quite underrated now. People are saying like it's a purple patch what he's done. Like, of course he was in good form, like in his best form of his life earlier in the season when he was fantastic and named among like one of the best players in the whole world. But I still think Rashford is fantastic. So I think he's going to score. It's Fulham at home. Fulham are really weak defensively. And I think Rashford will want to end the season on a high. I think Man United want to end the season on a high, even though they have probably completed or secured Champions League qualification already at this point. I think Rashford is going to have a really nice end to the season with his final game against Fulham at home. So Rashford, fantastic value as well. He's been fantastic value this whole season. It's also a huge lesson for Fantasy Premier League, like the powers that be, as it were, for pricing as well, because Rashford was priced at like 7.0 I think this season, and it is criminally low considering what he has done in the past. So I hope they won't make that same mistake again next season. For example, if they have like Heung-min Son and price him at like 7 million, that would be so stupid. It would sort of be the similar thing that they did with Rashford this year, but that's just FPL for you. They want to price everyone really cheap so everyone can get all their favorite players in so they can have their favorite squad. But hopefully Rashford at least should be like 10, potentially 11 million next season. But for now, he's still 7 million, 7.5 or something, I think. So he's still fantastic value and someone you should have in your squad if you don't have him already. Moving on, we have the next player, and it's another Man United player. It is Luke Shaw, who's been fantastic as the fullback this whole season. Whenever he's played at fullback, he's been fancy goal mine. He keeps getting bonus points because he's so offensively gifted. He's so defensively gifted as well. I think he's been fantastic this season, playing as either a left back or center back. But as a left back in FPL, he's been fantastic. And it seems like he's going to play left back again, unless Man United play with like a lesser team. But I think they're still going to play their best side. They play at home. I think that matters as well. Playing at home in the final game of the season, you want to end on a high at home. So I think Shaw is going to start as left back, and I think he's going to be an amazing prospect as well this game week, as he has been the last few game weeks, because Man United have been really good defensively, and Shaw has been really good just across the board really this whole season. So moving on to number 8, we have Martin Ødegaard, my fellow Norwegian player. I'm not much of a player myself. I'm more of a manager, FPL manager, but that said, I am going to go play football right after recording this. So, but either way, Ødegaard is a better player than me. Some people say that I look like him. I don't know about that. Maybe you can be the judge for that, but at least he's a better footballer than me, and he's been the player of the season for Arsenal, in my opinion. I think Arsenal as well. Like I said, teams want to finish at home on a high, and I think that's especially the case for Arsenal, who've been so disappointing lately. Losing against Nottingham Forest last time around as well. They really need a result now just to give their fans some semblance of hope for next season, because I think they have a lot to be hopeful about, because they have the youngest squad in the league and they have been really close to winning the Premier League title this season, which is pretty unheard of before the season. So I think they want to finish on a high. I think Ødegaard has been their best player. He's been their best fancy player. He's been their best everything this season. So I think he is also my pick for who I would choose from Arsenal as well. You obviously have Trossard and Saka and Gabriel Jesus as well, but I think Ødegaard is the best pick to own from Arsenal this game week. And I think he's going to be a really good player to have as well. It's not that long ago he scored twice against Chelsea, so he's proven lately as well that he's not in the worst form compared to someone like Saka. So yeah, Ødegaard, fantastic pick. I think Arsenal are going to be having a field day against Wolverhampton, who are terrible away from home. So I think that's going to be a great game to target as well, even though Arsenal don't really have anything to play for because they already have the number 2 spot secured. But like I said, they want to finish on a high after a string of really bad results lately. Next player is Konaté. I've mentioned that I think Liverpool's fixture against Southampton is amazing, and I think they're going to keep a clean sheet, and I think Konaté is going to start. And Konaté has been really unlucky not to score several goals. You remember against Arsenal, he chested it towards the goal, and Ramsdale had a super save. Last game for Liverpool as well, he had an assist. It really should have been a goal. He really should have scored on the first attempt, but it went back to Van Dijk, who was offside, and the goal was disallowed. Kakpo scored that goal, but Konaté would have had the assist, and he was close to scoring as well. I think Konaté is going to be a fantastic pick next season. He was one of the players I looked at for this season, but he's been mostly injured. But now lately he's been starting every single game week, and Liverpool have been really tight at the back since he started playing regularly as well. So I think Konaté is a fantastic pick, not only for this game week, but also for next season. He's definitely one I'm going to target for the start of next season. So Konaté, goal-scoring threat, clean sheet threat, and yeah, just a fantastic fixture for Liverpool. So we're tripling up on Liverpool players, of course. Number 10 in the starting 11 and the final outfield player we're going to play with the free hit team is Ferguson. Evan Ferguson for Brighton. Scored twice last game around, or at least at the time of recording. Brighton still have one more game to play in Game Week 37, but in the first Game Week 37 game for Brighton, Ferguson looked amazing. Once again, he's been a revelation for Brighton. I think he is the future for them, and I think he's going to finish the season playing in the final game of the season as well. Brighton don't have much to play for, but Ferguson is someone they can showcase and prove that he is the real deal for next season. I know they're bringing Joao Pedro in for like sort of a striker role next season. They have Welbeck, they have Undav, they have those guys that can play as a striker, but I think Evan Ferguson is going to be the main man going forward, and even now this season I think he has a shot to score a couple goals. So yeah, I'm slightly unsure about him because he might be rested or he might not play in the final game because they have so many players that can play in that position. But I think if he plays against Aston Villa, I think he is a fantastic pick. And I think Aston Villa as well sort of don't really have that much to play for either. And they haven't been the best lately either. They have been sort of lucky to have the results that they have this at the end of the season. So I think Ferguson can score against Aston Villa for sure. Moving on to the goalkeeper of the squad, and it is Ortega from Man City. He's been amazing for City. He got all the 3 bonus points last time around. He had like 6 saves, I think, which is something Ederson probably hasn't done all season, really. So there is a question to be asked if Ortega is actually the better goalkeeper, at least judging off these 2 fixtures that he has had as the starting goalkeeper for City this year. He's been amazing, and Ederson has been sort of lackluster this season. We all know, everyone that has had him in Fans Premier League know what a troll he's been, and we all know with the stats as well, like the expected goals conceded and how many the goalkeepers in the Premier League let in. He's one of the worst ones there, I guess, Ederson. So I think Ortega, he's probably going to start the final game as well of the season. So, but we'll get to, if he doesn't start, we'll have a nice backup plan, as I'll show you with the 15th pick. But yeah, Ortega, if he starts, probably going to keep a clean sheet against Brentford. You don't really know because Brian Mbeumo is in amazing form. He's also someone I did consider as the final striker in this team, but seeing as they play City, who are usually really good defensively, not really going to go there. I'm rather going to back their defense in terms of the goalkeeper and Ortega, who's been fantastic lately. So I think he can rack up some saves against Brentford. I think he can get a clean sheet, and I think he can get bonus once again. He's been like the highest value player. He's only 3.7, I think, in Fantasy Premier League. So yeah, a really cheap goalkeeper if you want to go with him, and another cheap goalkeeper if you really think he's going to start, or if you get team news that he's going to start, then he's a fantastic option as a goalkeeper. But that concludes the starting 11. These are the 11 players I think you should start with if you're on a free hit for this game week. But on the bench, we have one fantastic option as the first bench option, and that is Mina. I backed him in last week's weekly wildcard draft. I had him as my 14th player, as like one of the bench players, but he should have been starting because he got a goal. He had another huge chance in the first half. It should be noted, he's such a good threat on set pieces, and Everton are so good on set pieces under Sean Dyche. So I think he's going to be fantastic once again. Everton need to win to stay up, probably, at least get a draw, but most likely they need to win if Leicester beat West Ham. So I think they can get a clean sheet. I think Mina can get a goal, and that's what I said last week as well. And he ended up getting the goal and conceding like an unlucky goal against Wolverhampton as well. But Mina, fantastic pick currently for Everton. I think he's the best defensive pick for Everton because he has the highest goal threat, and he's also an amazing defender as well. Like, he's really good on his day. We know what Mina can do. We've all seen him back in the past when he scored a lot of goals in the World Cup and stuff. Like, he's been really good at times. So yeah, Mina is definitely not the worst player to have on your bench if one of the starting 11 players doesn't play for some reason. If Haaland is benched or if Ferguson is benched or something like that, then Mina can easily step in and do a really good job for Everton and for your Fantasy Premier League team as well. Moving on to the next bench option, we have Kiwior from Arsenal. Again, they conceded against Nottingham Forest, but I think Kiwior for 4.0 is still an amazing value defender. They probably won't concede against Wolves, who are pretty bad offensively, especially away from home. So yeah, Kiwior is another good like backup option to have on your bench if one or if two of the players in the starting 11 don't play. So I think Kiwior is also a nice differential option, I guess. In defense, I wouldn't really buy him as like the final transfer. You want to have someone with more upside, but if you have a free hit, I think he's definitely someone you should pick at the end of your bench. So I think he's able to do a really good job there. And at the final bench position, we have Leon Bailey, really the only midfielder that I like in that price bracket for Fantasy Premier League, especially seeing as Andreas Pereira is injured. Bailey has been sort of hot and cold this season. He's had some fantastic game weeks, and he could turn it on against Brighton as well and score a couple goals, but he's end of the bench player. He's just a really cheap player to have. And finally, we're going to talk about the second goalkeeper, and I told you I have a backup plan in case Ortega doesn't start, and that is going with Ederson as your backup goalkeeper. This secures you to have a City goalkeeper, unless they do like some sort of Zach Steffen, I don't know where move. I don't even know if he plays for City still, but yeah, I think this will cover you for Man City goalkeepers, but you never know with Pep. Maybe you get like a final fun story of this season, how you got screwed in terms of FPL goalkeepers as well, if Pep all of a sudden plays like a under 18 goalkeeper or something. But most likely this goalkeeper combination will give you a City goalkeeper against Brentford, which I think is good value. Even if it is Ederson that starts, he could potentially score a penalty. We've heard talks about Ederson potentially stepping up on penalties. Maybe he does that if Haaland doesn't play. Who knows? But yeah, I think a City goalkeeper is good for this game week. So with Ortega and Ederson, you should be really good. You should have really good cover for your goalkeeper position. There's also some names we haven't mentioned because, as you can see, the green names, Ortega, Konaté, Ødegaard, Bailey, Kane, and Ferguson, were not in last week's weekly wildcard draft. So we're going to see the players that have dropped out to make way for these players, and they will be listed above me here in red, as you'll see now. We have Bruno Fernandes. He's still a great option against Fulham at home, but once again, he didn't provide the goods, and he's sort of too expensive for this team, seeing as I wanted to have Salah, Kane, and Haaland. You have to drop out Fernandes, but saying that, if Haaland doesn't start and you can downgrade Haaland to Alvarez, then definitely Fernandes is someone you can bring in the midfield. I think you could bring him in rather than Ødegaard. He probably gets more points than Ødegaard this game week, but he's also more expensive. So that's something you can value up against each other. Alexander Isak, just been super disappointing as a left winger lately. It's not really his fault because he's such an amazing player, but with Callum Wilson in such good form, Isak has been shoved off to the left and he hasn't really provided the FPL points lately, so he's out of the squad really. Pervis has been really good the last few game weeks, but he did concede last time around, and they do have a game against Aston Villa. I don't think they're going to keep a clean sheet. Estebinian could always score, get an assist, but still, I think there are better defensive options for cheaper, like Konaté, Mina, and Kiwior, especially Konaté as the starter. Then we have Kaoru Mitoma, who, again, has been really unlucky not to get more points lately. And I think also Brighton, now that they only have one fixture left, they don't have the same super value as they have had the last few game weeks. But still, I think Mitoma is still a fantastic option. I don't think you should sell him if you have him, really. Maybe for SA, potentially, but maybe even for Ødegaard. But apart from that, I don't really think you should sell Mitoma. I think there are other players to sell before him. But yeah, he's been unlucky not to get more points lately. Then Enciso, he was the third Brighton player I had last week, and that was in attack. But Ferguson proved to be the better pick, and I'm sort of annoyed because I do these weekly wildcard drafts at the start of the week. At the start of the week, I felt like Enciso was the better option, but as we were getting closer and closer to the deadline, Ferguson looked more likely to start, and he proved to be fantastic value. So I wish I had gone with Ferguson last week. It would have kept on a really good streak of picking players 1 week before they really show up. So yeah, I think Ferguson is a better pick than Enciso this week, but who knows? If we get team news that Enciso starts, I think he's still a good option. But yeah, that's just the 10th pick of the team as well. So maybe you can get someone more expensive in if you have more money in the bank than I have. And then finally, we have Daniel Ederson for Leicester. I've had the backup goalkeeper from Leicester as the 15th pick pretty much all season, but this is the end of the road. I know they got a clean sheet last time around, so it feels kind of weird dropping them after a clean sheet. But yeah, I just want to go with the City defender or City goalkeepers instead. But if you are sure that Ortega starts, if we get news that Ortega starts, then definitely you can drop Ederson for Everson and get even more money in the bank. You could potentially get Fernandes in as like the final midfielder as well. Maybe you can bench Ferguson and have Fernandes rather than Bailey and start Fernandes if you get enough money for that. So yeah, for example, if Alvarez starts and Ortega starts, you can drop Ederson, you can switch Haaland to Alvarez, and then you can get Bailey up to someone like Fernandes, and you'll have a fantastic squad as well. But also want to mention a couple like differential shouts potentially this game week as well. If you are chasing rank and you want to catch someone with a team like this, if you want to catch up with someone that already has a lot of these players and you don't want to have the same team as him, then I think there are some good options. I think for Everton, offensively, I think they need to score. Their games against Bournemouth are usually really high scoring. So I think someone like Dwight McNeil, if he starts as a left winger, I think he's fantastic value. If he plays as a left back, if Mikolenko is out, then maybe not. Maybe if he plays as left wing back, I don't think he's that great value. But in that case, I think Decore is also another good option. Decore seems like one of those random players who could score 2 goals in the final game week of the season. There's always 1 or 2 weird guys who score 2 goals out of nowhere. I think it was Pablo Fornals 2 seasons ago for West Ham at least. But speaking of West Ham, Lucas Paqueta as well. I think West Ham will still play one of their better starting 11s because they still have, I think it's like 10 days after this game against Leicester, they have the Euro Conference League final. So I think they'll still start with a really good squad. So I think Paqueta is decent from West Ham. I think Bowen is really good lately for West Ham. And I think Antonio is also a really good pick from West Ham as well. So they could potentially be really good players if they're playing they are playing as Leicester. But seeing as Leicester are chasing the 3 points and getting goals, I think they could be susceptible defensively, so as they have been the whole season. So I think West Ham players are good options as well. I think Antonio is going to start. I think they're going to start their best 11 most likely, but you never know. Apart from that, I've mentioned Alvarez already. I think this is a pretty good team. There are some other picks as well. I could potentially talk more about them in the next few videos on this channel, because we're going to do, as always, we're going to have the FPL Scope podcast, which is going to happen, well, we're going to record it tomorrow and post it on Thursday. And I'm also going to have my team selection video where I'm going to talk more about some other potential choices for my own team. And yeah, we'll have more content with more players coming up as well. So make sure to subscribe to stay put for that for the end of the season. Also, make sure to join our mini league. You can still join our mini league and win it all of a sudden. Just join the mini league in the final game week and take over the lead. Not 100% sure what the leader of the FPL Scope mini league has currently with points, but maybe you can beat him if you join. And that could also feature you on the podcast as the manager of the week, which we always do every week now. We do the best manager each week. We highlight him and we talk about his future plans as well. But that's not going to happen this time because it is GW38 after all. But maybe you'll look back into a season. Maybe you'll look at manager of the year as well. That's potentially something we can do. So if you have a really high score on your team and you join the league and you win the league, maybe we'll talk about your team and look back at your season and look at all the good things that you've done. I'm sure you've done more good decisions than me, who've had a pretty terrible season. But as I mentioned before, next season I've put some pretty lofty goals up. I'm going to retire from FPL unless I finish inside the top 10k, or if I get 10k subs on this channel. So that's my goals for next season. So you have it right here. I'm putting down some really lofty goals for me to stay with this game that I've played for like 14-15 years. So a lot at stake for me next season, because this season has been terrible. But enough about this season, enough about the weekly wildcard draft for this time around. I've been Matthias. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.